Buenas noches, familia. This is Ray Collazo, and you're watching the simulcast of the Family Translation Talk Show and Bomba Live, the virtual Puerto Rico celebration. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a very multicultural show today. Los dos idiomas, inglés, español. A very serious conversation we're going to have later in the show about, all right, boycott Goya, but what do we do now? Very serious conversation with our great friends from the Brands of Puerto Rico, the National Puerto Rico Chamber of Commerce, and discuss some updates. I have some very critical information for people related to the COVID-19 crisis that we got to get out there to our folks. The impact happening on the Latino community is unbelievable. And we're going to have a little fun with our friends from Puerto Rico, a group that's part of the next generation, the Talento Boricua in the music world. And we couldn't do it without my fearless co-host, Sulaih Picorelli. You're back.
Hola, how are you? I miss you. I miss you so much.
And we've never met in person. So yes, the feeling is mutual. Sulaih, this is going to be a great show. Again, later on in the show, we're going to talk to our friends in the business community, sort of a follow-up from the great business panel that we had during the big Bomba Live show in June. And then we're also going to have some other serious conversation, but we are going to mix it up because we know you're a singer, you love the arts, and I know you're excited about this conversation we're going to have with La Parcha in a few minutes.
So very excited, but we do have to talk a little bit about the stuff that's been happening, you know.
There's no question about it. First of all, you know, our thoughts and prayers with the Rivera family. She was missing during last week's show, so we didn't want to jinx it, and we obviously were all hoping for the best for her, but unfortunately, actress and, you know, really mega celebrity Naya Rivera unfortunately passed away, apparently saving her son from drowning. I know Sulaih is someone that follows the arts and sort of this June generation of Latina Hollywood talent. I know that was very sad news to hear.
I think it's definitely, I don't know if you read about, you know, this happening to other folks who visited that area. And definitely, you know, there has, I don't know, a need for some sort of, hey, this might happen. It's so scary. And then to think that she was out there by herself with her 4-year-old son, and also to know that she was able to get her son back to safety. And then sadly, you know, what happens.
It's very sad. I mean, you know, you can, I mean, honestly, waste a lot of time theorizing what happened. You know, some people try to theorize maybe what her mental state was, you know, sort of parking the car sort of in a weird spot in the middle of an empty parking lot, or child, you know, trailing behind her at one point. I mean, you can try to read things, but the reality is, you know, I mean, by all rights, someone that really, you don't know. Yeah. You know, I mean, in my mind, I'm like, why would you be out in the middle of this humongous lake by yourself? You know, it's not crowded. There's nobody around. It wasn't really safe, really, for one individual person and one little kid. But the reality is that, you know, our thoughts and prayers for the family. Naya meant a lot she obviously had a good heart, you know, her coworkers. I don't know if you saw the Glee, you know, cast where went along the lake together. Her dad jumped in with all his clothes. You know, she meant to a lot of people. Obviously, a Latina icon for her generation, an LGBT icon playing a openly gay character on Glee, and someone that brought a lot of people together. You know, she's multicultural and someone that had just a great career ahead of her and was a good mom. She really cared about her son. So, you know, our thoughts and prayers for the family. And, you know, we're before we introduce a very special guest, Sulaih, what are we up to, month 5 of COVID? How is your family holding up at this point? How are the boys this summer? I know it's got to be driving them crazy.
I don't know if you guys know this, but we got a puppy. So because we're not traveling, because we're stuck home, we thought it was the perfect time to welcome a new puppy to home. So we are breaking him in. He's only 10 weeks old. A Weimaraner. Have you seen Weimaraners? He's beautiful.
But he ain't going to be a puppy much longer, my friend. They're humongous.
He's huge. Like even now, his paws are huge.
Shout out to my homie, one of my compadres, Danilo Rodriguez and his wife, Joanne Garst. They had a Weimaraner for 15 years or something. I mean, their relationship was about this Weimaraner, and they moved to the Middle East and they kept it. I mean, that Weimaraner lived a good life. So that's why I know about those, that species. They're something. They're big. They're as big as greyhounds, girl. That thing's going to overtake your family in a minute.
I can't wait. And then also we're planning for, you know, possibly reopening of schools. So I understand that we are living with COVID now. So now how do we get through, you know, the regular life through COVID? And that's, you know, another conversation that we're having, going back to school a couple of days a week and then doing schooling from home, and what does that model look like? So let's see what happens. But
yeah, the meme on that is I don't know if you saw it. It's a Kristen Wiig, the Saturday Night Live big comedic actress,
yeah,
where it's like, what do you think about doing online all day? What do you think about them going back to school? Like, there's no good option here. This is not a good situation. But we'll talk later. I have some information I want to share with people about this, specifically the impact on Latinos of COVID-19. We are getting a big brunt of it. But we wanted, as part of the Bomba Live tradition, this tradition we started last month, that we really want to make this platform a platform for this new generation of artists, particularly Puerto Rican artists, especially the ones coming from la isla de Puerto Rico. Queremos apoyar esta nueva generación de artistas y talentos boricuas, and we're really happy to have on the show a group that I'm really enjoying getting to learn about. Que tiene una mezcla. It's really hard to even describe, and I think, Sulaih, you're going to have some questions for about, how to even describe their music. A real interesting sound. Y son buena gente, Calde y Pablo Javier del grupo La Parcha. Bienvenidos, hermanos.
Ahí está, muchísimas gracias, Ray. Gracias por recibirnos aquí. Muy agradecido.
No, mil gracias. Un saludo a nuestra amiga Becky Boricua, que conectó a nosotros, y estamos aquí para apoyar en la nueva generación de talento boricua. Sulaih, I know you're really excited to get to learn about more about el grupo La Parcha, y ahorita, in a little bit, we're going to play some of your new music. So really excited. Mil gracias, hermanos, para compartir con nosotros esta noche.
No, gracias a ustedes por la invitación. Estamos muy contentos de conocerlos y de ser parte de su programa. Un abrazo.
Perfecto. Sulaih, take it away.
Muy emocionada de que estén con nosotros en esta noche. ¿Y qué pasó con Gerardo? Nos falta Gerardo.
Sí, Gerardo les manda también un abrazo y sus disculpas por no poder estar presente hoy. Tuvo unos problemitas técnicos, pero está aquí en espíritu y deseándonos lo mejor.
Un saludo le enviamos. Entonces, claro que sí. Para comenzar, porque yo pude leer y ver algunos videos sobre la trayectoria de La Parcha, pero que me ocasiona mucha ilusión conocer, a ver si me hablan un poco de cómo fue que se conocieron este grupo de amigos, y dentro de esa amistad, ¿en qué momento fue que vieron que podían crear una oportunidad musical?
Claro que sí. Pues mira, la Parcha se fundó hace 3 años, en el verano del 2017. Cada cual en el grupo tenía sus proyectos independientes. Tocábamos en diferentes lugares de Puerto Rico con nuestros proyectos. Se me dio tocar en un restaurante en el sur de Puerto Rico, en el pueblo de Salinas. Y ahí es donde vive el señor Gerardo, que hoy no pudo estar con nosotros. Él es la persona que tiene la visión inicial de La Parcha. Cuando él escuchó el performance que yo estaba dando, se acercó a mí y me dijo: mira, Pablo, ¿sabes qué? Hace tiempo que estoy queriendo hacer un proyecto refrescante, y creo que la voz tuya encaja perfectamente con lo que yo imagino. Y entonces ese fue el primer acercamiento, la primera chispa que encendió el inicio.
¿Y qué tal tú, Calde? Un gusto conocerte. Háblanos de
la
experiencia para ti.
Gracias por recibirnos aquí. Pues después que Pablo y Jerry tenían ese plan, esa idea de crear un grupo que tuviera un sonido refrescante, le hacía falta la pieza que tuviera la melodía. Ya Jerry se encarga de la percusión, Pablo de las voces, y hacía falta algún instrumento extra que pudiera acompañarlo. Ya nosotros 3 nos conocíamos de un grupo que tocábamos antes en los hoteles, los 3 juntos, y de ahí decidimos hacer un proyecto completamente aparte, que fuera más de música original, aunque también tocábamos covers, y ahí decidimos hacer La Parcha. Ellos me llaman, me dicen: Carle, tengo este plan, tengo esta idea, ¿te gustaría intentarlo? Y yo dije: claro que sí, vamos a hacerlo. Fuimos a un ensayo y desde el 2017 hasta el sol de hoy nació La Parcha. Seguimos haciendo música por ahí.
Así que tú y Pablo Javier, ¿cómo te dicen a ti? ¿Solamente Pablo, Javier? ¿Cómo te llaman?
Mi nombre es Pablo Javier Nieves, y en cualquiera de los nombres me puedes llamar, pero me suelo presentar como Pablo Javier. Sí.
Ok, porque yo de buena primera vi que a Calderón le gusta que le dicen Calde. Que le digan
sí.
Entonces,
la única persona que me llama Carlos Calderón es mi mamá cuando me va a regañar.
Ok, eso no soy yo. Y Calde, entonces, ¿en qué momento se conocen tú y Pablo Javier?
Pues yo te diría que primero conocí a Gerardo. Gerardo y yo nos conocimos, yo te diría que para el año 2015, 2015, 2016 por ahí, en la orquesta que te mencioné que tocábamos antes. Ya nos conocíamos, él se encargaba de hacer la percusión y yo era el que sustituía al pianista de esa orquesta cuando no podía, que es nuestro pana Georgie. Cuando no podía, pues ahí yo conocí primero a Jerry. Yo te diría que Pablo entró. Pablo, ¿en qué año fue que tú entraste? ¿2017, 2018?
A finales de ese 2017, justo cuando
¿Verdad?
la Parcha estaba empezando, entré a la orquesta esa, es un wedding band, como le decíamos acá,
Sí.
y pasamos muy bien.
Sí, el 2017. Ahí se encargó Pablo y ya pues Jerry y yo nos conocíamos y de ahí nació la Parcha.
A ver, entonces, si nos hablan un poco sobre la influencia musical, esa es otra cosa que nos llamó mucho la atención porque vemos influencia de reggaetón, influencia del vallenato. Háblenos un poco sobre eso.
Sí, mira, la Parcha, como bien había mencionado Alcalde, nuestro primer juego fue cantar covers en diferentes lugares. Pero yo, que me dedico a escribir canciones desde muy pequeño, y ya me había probado escribiendo canciones para otros artistas, le presenté mis temas a los muchachos, entonces ellos quedaron encantados, entendieron la visión que yo tenía para hacer la música, y las influencias de nosotros venían de todas las direcciones de la música. O sea, tenemos influencia del rock, tenemos influencia de lo latino, tenemos influencia de todo tipo. Entonces, encontramos un common ground con el sonido bonito que tienen los acordeones en la música colombiana, del vallenato. Entonces nos encanta la música colombiana y los artistas colombianos y buscamos la manera de fusionar lo que son nuestras influencias puertorriqueñas con esa música tan bonita que hacen ellos, y ahí nacieron nuestros primeros 2 sencillos.
Wow, qué emoción. Alcalde, ¿quieres añadir algo a ese sentir?
No, así mismo como lo está diciendo Pablo, somos 3 mentes diferentes, pero con muchas ganas de hacer música, y entiendo que el toque y el color que tiene la música de la Parcha viene a raíz de eso. Somos 3 mentes, 3 gustos musicales distintos, pero que siempre nos inclinamos hacia la buena música, no importa el género, siempre hacemos la buena música, y entiendo que esa es una de las peculiaridades que describe la Parcha.
Entonces, antes de que podamos ver el primer sencillo de ustedes, si, no sé, uno de los dos me habla sobre, porque a mí me encanta la música, me gusta mucho conocer cómo es que, pues, cómo tú coges tantas cosas y las haces en una. Y una de esas cosas interesantes es el proceso de grabar un disco, de escribir las canciones, que si los instrumentos, es todo un proyecto grandísimo. ¿Nos hablan un poco sobre cómo fue la experiencia de ustedes?
Claro que sí, mira, nosotros hemos sido bendecidos que en nuestros inicios contamos con personas muy talentosas que creyeron en nosotros. Una de las personas fue Jay Lugo, un productor muy, muy bueno, junto con Eggy también, que creyeron en nuestro talento, vieron escucharon las canciones y vieron la oportunidad de ayudarnos a entrar en los mejores estudios que hay aquí para realmente crear. Acá, a la hora de crear la música, sin embargo, pues lo hacemos de una forma orgánica. Usualmente yo llamo a Calde a la hora que se me ocurra la primera chispa de inspiración con algún tipo de melodía, que no suelen llegar en las horas más oportunas. A veces puede ser a las 3 de la mañana, a veces puede ser a medianoche, que le envío una idea a Calderón y por allá Calderón empieza a darle mente y ahí te puede hablar de todo lo que hacemos. Cuéntale ahí un poquito, que ahora también Calde se dedica a producir.
Sí, pues estamos en ese proceso. Yo te diría que no tenemos un estándar de cómo escribir un tema, porque como tal, a veces llega la melodía primero, a veces llega la letra, a veces tenemos una meta, mira, me gustaría escribir un tema acerca de esto, y ahí comenzamos a elaborar. Pero básicamente este tema de Darte un Beso, que es el sencillo que tenemos en promoción, nació, yo te diría que era una noche, yo te diría como a las 8 de la noche. Pablo nos envía un audio al chat que tenemos de la banda y dice, muchachos, tengo este tema, escúchenlo y me dejan saber. Yo lo escucho rápido, él está con su micrófono y su guitarra grabándolo en la casa y yo me paro frente al piano, me siento y digo, oye Pablo, me gusta eso que está pasando, ¿qué tú crees si le agregamos esto? Le hago un mini arreglo y le agrego un poco de letra. Pablo dice, me gusta eso. Jerry me dice, mira, vamos a hacerle este ritmo por aquí y por acá, y empezamos a desarrollar ese tema entre los 4, nos metimos al estudio y así fue que nació Darte un Beso.
Wow.
Estamos escuchando a Calde, Carlos, a.k.a., como se dice, Carlos Calderón, y el cantante del grupo principal, Pablo Javier Nieves, Primero, un saludo. Mi primo, él crió en Salinas también. Él vive en
Sí.
Calle ahora, pero un saludo a Omar González, que está mirando el programa. Es de parte del programa, el evento especial de Bomba Live en junio. Siempre un saludo a todos mis fans González de Puerto Rico. Y también yo tengo una pregunta, porque en esta época, obviamente, los artistas de Puerto Rico, de su generación, está en un gran influencia en la música nivel global, mundial. Pero muchos son, como se dice, bien de la calle, tú sabes, la street vibe. Ustedes tienen un estilo más suave, más positivo, más pop, más para todas las generaciones en la familia. Esa aplica porque hagan música que tiene ese ritmo de más suave y más para toda la gente en la familia.
Yo creo que tiene mucho que ver, y nuevamente, saludos hermanos, que nuevamente gracias por tenernos. Tiene mucho que ver con nuestra forma de ser y las influencias que nos han visto crecer en la música. Nosotros queremos modernizar la forma de hacer la música que existía antes. Nosotros queremos apelar a un grupo mucho más grande de personas y no queremos estar exactamente encajonados en el estilo que esté de moda. Yo soy una persona que, por ejemplo, se influencia mucho por la música romántica que se hacía en los 90, en los 80.
¿Qué clase de artista? ¿Hay ejemplos de artistas que tienen esa influencia en su grupo?
En mi caso, que yo soy el romanticón del grupo, pues escuchaba mucho los baladistas clásicos como Luis Miguel, Cristian Castro, Fonsi en sus inicios, ¿ves? Y de ahí nace la mayoría de la inspiración de mis letras, de escribir canciones de amor, ¿verdad? Entonces, estos muchachos que me están ayudando en el desarrollo de mis temas le están dando otras influencias que son ya los ritmos un poco más vivos, ¿verdad? Calderón es un experto creando pistas de música con ritmos sabrosos, ¿verdad? Entonces ahí van dándole esos distintos sabores, pero siempre queremos tener una letra positiva, queremos tener un mensaje que lo pueda consumir la familia, el pequeño, el grande, tenemos esa visión.
Es smart, because mucha gente de varias generaciones, por ejemplo, había mucho en esa época de Willy Colón y esa generación de salseros, los artistas boricuas como Willy Colón, que incorporated the Colombian rhythms como cumbia y con Cheche Colé en esa generación. They were the ones that got ahead. También artistas como Nicky Jam y los boricuas que tienen ese sabor que tiene la influencia de Sudamérica. That kind of put you ahead of the game. Sulaih, I know you've been really enjoying getting to learn about La Parcha. I have a question for you. La Parcha to me feels very connected to the kind of music you like, and that también Sulaih canta también. She's also a singer, so I'm curious, Sulaih, ¿por qué le gusta? I know you like La Parcha. What do you like about La Parcha so much?
Exactamente de lo que estábamos hablando justo ahora, que no es una música que es solamente para un grupo de personas. Es algo que podemos recomendarle a la abuela, al chiquito y a los de mi edad también. Y eso es lo que me atrae mucho, que como dice Pablo Javier, es un mensaje positivo, nada negativo. Y right now estamos about positivity and good vibes only.
Exactamente. Gracias, qué bueno que piensas igual que nosotros en ese sentido. Sulaih, me gustaría escucharte cantar. Tenemos que cantar.
Sí,
I think that's an excellent idea, Sulaih. We're not putting you on the spot, but you got an audition right here. Sulaih, ¿quieres cantar algo? No, en serio.
Claro que sí.
Oh my gosh, you put me on the spot.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
You can.
While you get ready, saludos. Tenemos aquí, obviamente, fanáticos de La Parcha, José Vigo. Dímelo, Pardi. Estilo boricua ahí. Marangeli Merced, saludos.
Mariangeli, un abrazo.
Estaba con ustedes, bienvenidos y saludos a todos. Sasha de Tampa ahí. Saludos, tenemos muchos saludos y mucho amor para el grupo La Parcha aquí en Bomba Live. So Sulaih, we gave you a minute, girl. So you ready?
Of course, yes.
No pressure.
Algo light y cómico. No sé si se conocen esta canción de la Sonora Dinamita.
Ajá.
Había una vez en mi pueblo un matrimonio, rubio como la mantequilla. Yo puedo dar mi fe y mi testimonio, que lo que digo no es ninguna mentirilla. Del matrimonio nacieron 9 hijos. 8 salieron rubiecitos, yo lo vi, a mí nadie me lo dijo, que el 9º resultó ser bien negrito. El marido soportó por muchos años, pero a la larga el silencio le hizo daño y decidió confesar a su mujer. Y si se la saben, me siguen, ¿sí? Y lo que ustedes van a ver. Ahí está.
¡Uepa! ¡Saludos! ¡Increíble!
Tienes fanático por aquí ahora.
Qué bueno. Pero eso es lo que pasa, hermanos, porque la comunidad tenemos tanto talento, hermanos. ¿Cómo habla un poco sobre el escenario ahora en Puerto Rico? Porque obviamente la música en la calle de Puerto Rico son súper calientes, pero también estamos en la pandemia también y todos los crisis que está pasando en Puerto Rico. Habla un poco sobre el ambiente ahora en Puerto Rico para los artistas.
Cuéntale, Calde.
Pues mira, el ambiente ahora mismo para los artistas está un poco difícil en cuestión de exposición en vivo. Aquí en Puerto Rico, literalmente hace 1 o 2 horas, volvieron a trancar el país, hicieron un lockdown un poco más riguroso porque hubo un repunte de casos de coronavirus y pues obviamente hay que moverse y volver a lo que nos funcionó desde un principio. Y lo primero que se cortó fue el entretenimiento. Obviamente, todos los artistas, ya sea músico, bailarín, cantante, actor, ¿qué te puedo decir? De obras de teatro, que trabajes para el cine, todo eso pues obviamente volvió para atrás. Está un poco difícil, pero por lo menos nosotros en La Parcha no hemos parado de trabajar. Simplemente nos modificamos a lo que está sucediendo y obviamente no podemos estar en eventos en vivo, pero sí hemos aprovechado esta cuarentena y hemos escrito, yo te diría que ya hay alrededor de 6 temas. La semana pasada estuvimos en el estudio y grabamos 2 temas ya, que íbamos con la idea de grabar solamente uno y gracias a Dios salieron 2, que por lo menos a nosotros sí nos ha afectado en cuestión de los performances en vivo, pero no nos hemos detenido, simplemente nos ajustamos y aprovechamos este tiempo que quizás con la agenda tan ajetreada que llevábamos antes del coronavirus no podíamos hacer para entrar al estudio, pues aprovechamos este momento y estamos grabando esos temas nuevos.
Tenemos otro parte de la familia de Bomba Live que quiere saludar a ustedes, que va a ser parte del próximo segmento, el presidente de Brent de Puerto Rico, alguien que está envuelto en negocio en Puerto Rico y también está trabajando con diáspora para el negocio para los boricuas que están en mainland. Alan Taveras de Brent de Puerto Rico. Saludos, Alan.
Saludos, que es la que hay, mi gente.
Saludos.
Que hay La Parcha.
Hey, saludos, hermano.
Saludos, brother. Un abrazo.
Alan, su perspectiva sobre la entrevista con La Parcha, específicamente el ambiente para artistas y, en su caso, negociantes en Puerto Rico ahora.
Mano, como decimos acá, me pompió mucho escuchar que se están formando grupos nuevos, que hay gente en la calle joseando, echando para adelante los proyectos, y más con, por ejemplo, cuando dijiste Luis Miguel, yo soy fan de Luis Miguel y de esa romántica, que yo soy amante de la música. Incluso cuando yo empecé a hacer negocio, yo me recuerdo cuando empecé fue cuando yo me saco de Jale Caer en Peso, que lo llevaba a discoteca acá en San Juan, el viejo San Juan, y empecé así a promocionar eventos. Después me moví a las otras cosas, pero yo creo mucho en la música y no es ni de creer. El mundo entero sabe que donde mejor se hace música es en Puerto Rico, y lo que están haciendo los muchachos es un palo. Lo que dijo Calde, que en vez de quedarse en su casa se metieron al estudio. Esa es la mentalidad que Puerto Rico necesita. Hay que producir, en vez de quedarnos con brazos caídos y no hacer nada. Hay que producir, porque una vez que se levante eso, los muchachos ya tienen suficientes balas para salir y comerse la calle. Así que yo no lo había escuchado, ya lo seguí en Spotify y tengo ahí el YouTube ready para darle play cuando se acabe esto y prender la noche con ustedes, y los felicito. Así es que hay que hacer.
Perfecto. Sulaih, su pregunta final, última pregunta para los amigos nosotros de La Parcha.
Me dio tanto gusto conocerlos. Mi única pregunta es que por favor vuelvan para que podamos conocer a Geraldo.
Claro que sí, muchas gracias. Así será.
Ojalá que sí, ojalá que sí. Algunas palabras finales para nuestros amigos de la Parcha. Un saludo. Becky Boricua está en el chat también y ustedes tienen muchos fanáticos de
Gracias.
Florida, de Puerto Rico. Ahí tenemos
Ahí.
Miraida ahí, mucho éxito.
Miraida, saludos.
Y Marta Vázquez, mande
Marta.
saludos y también
Marta,
Joel, que va a
Marta
ser
Grisel.
parte del próximo segmento. Pero algunas palabras finales de nuestros amigos de la Parcha.
Dile, Pablo, dile tú por ahí, después voy yo.
Nada, a todos los que nos están escuchando y a ustedes en Bomba Live les queremos agradecer la oportunidad que nos dieron aquí de hablar con ustedes. Cuenten con nosotros para todas las futuras ocasiones que nos quieran. Esperemos que disfruten nuestra música. Nos pueden seguir, ya saben, en todas las redes como La Parcha Music y buscar nuestro nuevo sencillo Darte un Beso, y esperamos que lo disfruten, de Puerto Rico para el mundo.
Y vamos a escuchar, tenemos la bendición para escuchar ahora y ver el nuevo video de La Parcha, Darte un Beso, de parte de La Parcha. Felicidades, hermanos.
Gracias.
Y aquí en Bomba Live somos el puente entre los artistas, talentos, líderes, entre los boricuas que viven acá en los Estados Unidos y nuestras familias, amistades en Puerto Rico. Cuento con nosotros y el futuro de todos sus esfuerzos.
Muchas gracias. Más que agradecido. Bendiciones.
Quiero que tú te enteres de que te extraño. Desde el momento en que me despido frente a tu puerta. Quisiera ser yo el que todos los días del año, con un cafecito en mano, a ti te despierta. Cantarte mis canciones al oído y celebrar que estás aquí conmigo, haciéndote el amor hasta que me pierda en tu corazón. Yo quiero darte un beso, amor de mis amores, un beso de agua fresca para que bailen todas tus flores. Yo quiero darte un beso cuando caiga la noche y hasta el amanecer quiero pintar mi cuerpo con tus colores.
Quiero besarte como si fuera la última vez, como si luego de esta noche no hubiera un después, que mis manos se dediquen a explorar tu piel, que tu sonrisa se combine con tu desnudez. Te quedes conmigo esta mañana y cuando entre el sol por la ventana nos desayunamos en la cama.
Yo quiero darte un beso, amor de mis amores, un beso de agua fresca para que bailen todas tus flores. Yo quiero darte un beso cuando caiga la noche y hasta el amanecer quiero pintar mi cuerpo con tus colores. Yo quiero darte todo, todo, porque sin ti no hay nada, nada. Quiero despedirme nunca más de ti, quiero vivir contigo, quiero ser feliz. Quiero darte todo, todo, porque sin ti no hay nada, nada. Porque sin ti me muero, por eso es que yo quiero. Yo quiero darte todo, todo, porque sin ti no hay nada, nada. Ay, no quiero vivir solito, bebé, yo necesito tu calor. Yo quiero darte un beso, amor de mis amores, un beso de agua fresca para que bailen todas tus flores. Yo quiero darte un beso cuando caiga la noche y hasta el amanecer quiero pintar mi cuerpo con tus colores.
No hay una segunda oportunidad para una primera impresión. Te lo digo yo.
Yo quiero darte un beso.
Desde Puerto Rico para el universo, nosotros somos La Parcha.
Yo quiero darte un beso.
Thank you, Calde y Pablo Javier de La Parcha. That was a great segment. Zulai, I know you enjoyed that. And Zulai, I should have given you a little heads up, but you did an incredible job singing. Thank you for that. I think they were very impressed.
Thank you.
That was a lot of
Thank
fun. That
you.
was a lot of fun. No, yeah, I really appreciate not only La Parcha y Becky Boricua setting that up, but the Bienvenido, their manager, Robert Bienvenuto, and Venuti, and the rest of the family de Puerto Rico y Florida, todos los fanaticada de La Parcha, escuchando el programa hoy. Thank you so much for being a part of this. You know, one of the other big things that's impacting the Latino community, the Puerto Rican community a lot, is this discussion about Goya, which we want to get into. And one of the things that we've been talking about on social media and with our leadership around the country and in Puerto Rico throughout the week is that regardless of what you feel about it on the political spectrum, which is another conversation we'll get into a little bit, is that this is an opportunity for us to really talk about how do Puerto Ricans, especially here on the mainland, support businesses, take this opportunity to support businesses in Puerto Rico and also support small business owners here in the mainland, because the Goya family's got plenty of our money. So let's share it with some of our other friends. And there's no one better to talk, literally two of the best people in the country and on the island to talk to about this. Let's bring back Alan Taveras from Brands of Puerto Rico and Joel Berrocal from the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce. Alan, welcome back.
Oh, thank you for having me back. It was an awesome song, man. La Parcha.
Yeah, no, and we're gonna play one of their other videos, de Mi Maneras, at the end of the show. So, and when Joel gets out of the cave, we'll have him join us. So, Alan, why don't we start with you? You are the president CEO of Brands of Puerto Rico. So, how is this discussion around boycotting Goya and a critical eye? How is Brands of Puerto Rico now engaged in this conversation to share with people? Look, there are other products, there are other Puerto Rican owned businesses on the island in the United States that you can tap into to get these goods and services.
Yeah, and I think there's a really important point on what you say. It doesn't matter where you stand on the politics side of it. I think it's more of the trust issue and a Boricua issue. So as you said, there's a lot of alternatives. For the last 6 years, we've been working with small producers here in Puerto Rico. For example, adobo brands, we have over 6 adobo brands. And for us, this whole boycott crisis thing actually has been extremely good for businesses, for our brands. On Friday, it exploded. We just posted photos of our adobos, and we said adobos that won't let you down, and that went viral on Twitter and on Facebook, and the sales increased. Being on calls with the adobo makers here throughout the weekend and the week, because they are super surprised. Roughly like 500 people that never came to our website went in and bought the entire section of adobos. So it's really good to see, because as you were saying, I think it's really important. And what my brother and I did when we founded this company, we needed a bridge between the Puerto Ricans that stayed in the island and were making products and trying to move forward the economy, and the Puerto Ricans in the States. For us, it's only one Puerto Rico. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're Boricua, you are Puerto Rico. And what we're trying to do is make everyone feel like they're back in the island by giving them those good products, and at the same time bringing new money to the island to kickstart that economy. So for us, it's been a blessing in disguise. We don't take sides. We just offer our alternative of great products that people never knew about.
People are really feeling what you're talking about. Alan, our great contributor, Zoe Colon, one of our great leaders in Central Florida, says, "Love it, adobo activism." That might be the title of this episode, Zoe. You may win the prize for that. But Alan, I want you to talk a little bit about the history of Brands of Puerto Rico, because, it didn't just start. And one of the things that I've been trying to, as Joel in the background turns himself from portrait to landscape, is that, that a part of what's been frustrating to me about this debate, and I'm in the boycott them, you insulted us, we can move on to other people that are for real, is that, it's almost insulting to think there's only one place you can buy your beans. We have Puerto Ricans and other options of people that are not only on the island, and why not support, instead of the humongous business that doesn't treat the workers all that great anyway, why don't we support our local business people who are trying to do it for our own community?
And Ray, that's exactly part of the point, that the smaller businesses don't have Goya money for advertisements, for example.
That's
So
right.
then, how do we find out about other brands? Thankfully, through Brands of Puerto Rico. So
Yeah.
that's really
I think a positive side of the economic crisis in Puerto Rico that unfortunately has made millions of people leave the island is that people lost their jobs and suddenly they were faced with the decision, either I make something or I leave. So the people that decided to stay and make something, now we're seeing like a new batch of entrepreneurs, something that me growing up, I used to go to the supermarket. I only saw two brands of like the Goya or the Accent, but I never saw these authentic, small boutique brands, and now they're popping up. We've been, for example, our history is actually part of the diaspora. My brother went to Boston to school. I went to Argentina to school. My mom used to send us these little care packages with adobo, coffee, and everything that all Puerto Rican moms do. So that when we came back to the island, we decided to do a business that would help the economy and would help all the small players that couldn't go to the supermarket. So we decided to create a virtual supermarket for Puerto Ricans everywhere, because I know Puerto Ricans everywhere in the world, and we all have one thing in common. We want to help the island. So we created that tool for them to be able to help, not only to donate money, but to actually purchase from small entrepreneurs, because the backbone of every economy are strong, medium, and small mom and pop shops. So that's what we're doing. We're working with mom and pop shops down here in the island to make them stronger and to make the economy stronger.
And there is so much potential. We're talking to Alan Taveras from the Brand of Puerto Rico and Joel Berrocal from the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce. We're going to engage in this conversation. Alan, to your point, and because of the post-Hurricane Maria, unfortunately, and the other crises that impact the island, our diaspora is more disparate than ever before. In the last week, there's been just in the last week, a Puerto Rican Facebook page for Puerto Ricans in North Carolina has engaged Bomba Live, and a Puerto Rican Facebook group for Puerto Ricans in California have reached out to us. So just in the last 2 weeks, by the way, well over 100,000, if not more, Puerto Ricans in the state of North Carolina have moved in the last few years because of post-Hurricane Maria. So that also has great political implications. Joel Berrocal from the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce. Finally, we got our tech situations taken care of. So Joel, you're focused, of course, being that bridge between Puerto Rican businesses in the diaspora and that also want to collaborate with Puerto Rican business owners on the island. So how does this Goya boycott business environment, how are you all engaged in this conversation around, hey, let's support our own small business owners?
Yeah. So, saludos everybody. Sorry for the crazy connection. I don't know what's going on. You're still kind of breaking out. So if Alan,
we hear you, so just keep talking. Don't worry about it. We hear you. Okay.
Cool. You hear me good? All right. Cool. But yeah, no, with this boycott, I don't think anybody really expects this boycott to put Goya out of business or anything along those lines. Goya is Disney, Goya is Apple, Goya is Comcast. I don't think that is the end goal of all this. I do think this opportunity, we have to look at this opportunity as a way to build brand awareness to the plethora of alternatives that are available and help those alternatives in their market share. So we at the Chamber, what we're trying to do is pretty much use all the tools at our disposal to help businesses like Brands of Puerto Rico and the businesses that they represent to do just that. I think it's important to make it 100% clear that we as Latinos do not owe Goya our loyalty, that they do not represent us in any way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? So us as Latinos need to show them that if they drop the ball again, we can use our collective power of our dollar to make our voices heard. So that's kind of where we're at.
That's right. And I think one of my brothers makes a great point here in the chat, someone that collaborates a lot with Joel and Alan, Michael Collazo. If we as a diaspora invested 10 to 20% of our consumer dollars to Boricua businesses, we would create thousands, if not millions, of jobs for Boricuas on the island of diaspora. And that's kind of my point. That's what I'm just trying to stress is that, we did this we're real good at doing this during crises during problems. You know, the Hurricane Maria, we mobilized, we supported each other, we created business, transportation chains. We created, I mean, if it wasn't billions, it was damn near close in goods and services and in cash to support the island, and similarly with the earthquakes and the other issues. But I think this is a call to action to say, why don't we keep doing this? It doesn't just have to be we support the music artists. Just thinking about Jasmine De Jesus that was on the panel with you guys during the big Bomba Live event. There's a young lady that, I mean, incredible business owner. Now, because of her last business, it's, she's now back, doing live work. But I mean, what an incredible personal story that young woman has. Yvette Mayo, Puerto Rican business owner in Texas. You know how much feedback I got from people that say, people know Yvette from all over the country. Why don't Puerto Ricans support Yvette in her business exploits? Joel, tell us about kind of those mom and pop stories, how, Puerto Ricans being deliberate around supporting our business owners can make a big difference.
I'm sorry, you broke up. Can you repeat that?
Just, give us an example of how those mom and pop businesses, supporting our mom and pop businesses locally or within the diaspora can make such a big difference.
I'm gonna jump in
Yes, por favor,
and
sí.
help you out. Just one example. We won adobo company, Chuleria and Pote from Chef Biboni, that is the most popular one since this whole Goya thing. Chef Biboni told me he was about to hire someone because of the suddenly spike on volume. So that's just one job of sales over the weekend and the big volumes that they have. So it's what Michael Collazo wrote. The real democracy that we as Puerto Ricans, no matter where we are in the world, have is our consuming power. If we put our dollar to help promote and buy Puerto Rican goods and goods made in the island, it's gonna have great effect on recovering Puerto Rico. It's more important to buy Puerto Rican products than to give money to a charity in Puerto Rico or something like that. Because what we need is to kickstart the economy here. Once we have that, a lot of people are gonna come back because the economy is good. So Puerto Ricans are gonna be better here in the island and outside of the island if we start thinking that our dollar can actually change life and give people jobs here in the island.
Absolutely. Sulaih, I want you to jump in this conversation because one of the things that you were very passionate about, especially when we started Bomba Live in June with the big event, was this idea of unity and the fact that we're creating platforms and spaces for us to not only enjoy our artists. I mean, it was great to hear La Parcha, La Música Suena, just to hear their personal story and how they're still going for it in Puerto Rico, but also that, we're working with Puerto Ricans and others around the country and around the world, really, to build these bridges. So I know this idea of collaboration and unity is a big part of what draws so many of us to the Bomba Live family.
And it's like you say, we shouldn't wait for a tragedy to happen for all of us to come together and, pull together. But aprovechemos entonces el momentum y hagámoslo bien. Y como dice Alan, we need to kickstart the economy, not taking donations in the back end that we really can't rely on going forward, but we can rely on your financial support. If I can rely on your financial support, to Alan's point, we will be able to have that economy that Puerto Rico so desperately needs. One of the reasons my husband and I don't live in Puerto Rico right now is precisely, the job forecast back in 2006. Even then, it wasn't looking good for a newly married couple to raise a family. ¿Qué más quisiera yo que poder decir, vámonos para Puerto Rico y vivir la calidad de vida que, we built over these 14 years for ourselves here in Philadelphia? Unfortunately, right now in 2020, we cannot do that.
And then on the flip side, Sulaih, look at how people like you and your husband and, the millions of us literally contribute to these communities in the stateside. Just thinking about wherever we go, we're contributing economically, we're contributing to the social fabric. How many friends we just had last week, Alan, Zulima Rodriguez on the show. We were talking about Walter Mercado and the documentary, and we should have a second to reflect on that too with this new group of friends. But Zulima's a leader in Phoenix, a Puerto Rican leader who has a small business, by the way, in Phoenix, Arizona. and is known throughout the Latino community as a leader for all Latinos in Phoenix. So we're like these ambassadors for our culture and our spirit. Imagine again, unfortunately, we all can't live on the island for lots of historical reasons and economic reasons, but we can act as one. And I think that's the Senate Bomba Live. What I want to do is I want to play another video that La Parcha has brought to us, De Mi Maneras. And then when we come back, July, I want to continue the conversation. You had some questions for Alan around talking a little bit about some of the products that people can find and support on Brands of Puerto Rico. And we'll give Joel a minute or two maybe to work on his tech stuff.
Estoy mirando aquí lo que tienen disponible, pan sobao.
Seguro que sí.
Número uno, pan sobao.
Seguro. So let's check out another video from La Parcha, and we'll come back with our panel talking about doing business, supporting our own here as we go through the Goya product. Man, we got a lot of, Alan, you get a lot of commentary on doing business and a lot of commentary about the Ivanka bean picture. A lot of, so we'll continue the conversation after another song from our friends from La Parcha.
Dale.
Hay amores que no pasan de una noche, aparecen y se pierden como gotas en el mar. Hay amores en silencio que se esconden por creer que es un pecado amar en plena libertad. Yo tengo suerte de tenerte en esta vida, de que sanes cada herida con los besos que me das. Porque este amor me devolvió la luz del sol y me ha llenado el corazón de primavera y tantas ilusiones nuevas. Este amor que me salvó en la soledad, sin condiciones para dar la vida entera. Sabes dar de mil maneras tanto amor. De mil maneras voy a adorarte. Me quedo corto, yo jamás podré pagarte. Estaba perdido y me encontraste con esa luz de tus ojitos al mirarme. Ya no quiero a nadie más. Este amor que tú me das me basta para vivir. Por eso te quiero decir que este amor me devolvió la luz del sol y me ha llenado el corazón de primavera y tantas ilusiones nuevas. Este amor que me salvó en la soledad, sin condiciones para dar la vida entera. Sabes dar de mil maneras tanto amor. Oh, oh. Yeah, yeah. Oh, oh. Yeah. Yo tengo suerte de tenerte en esta vida, de que sanes cada herida con los besos que me das. Porque este amor me devolvió la luz del sol y me ha llenado el corazón de primaveras y tantas ilusiones nuevas. Este amor que me salvó en la soledad, sin condiciones para dar la vida entera. Sabes dar de mil maneras tanto amor. Sabes dar de mil maneras tanto amor. Sabes dar de mil maneras tanto amor.
Gracias, La Parcha. Another great song from our friends at La Parcha. I like that song a lot, Zulay. That was cool. Zola, I know you had another couple of questions. Queremos entender más sobre algunos de los productos que ofrecen a los brands de Puerto Rico, ¿verdad que sí, Zulay?
Sí, yo estoy aquí hablando con ustedes, pero a la misma vez estoy en la computadora mirando los productos y veo que no tan solo venden, no tienen tan solamente, despensa o alimento, pero que también tienen artesanías, productos para belleza, que acabo de buscar polvo maja y no lo encontré.
Es que Maja no es una marca de Puerto Rico, es una marca que le gusta a los puertorriqueños, pero no es de acá. Nosotros nos concentramos en marcas que son de Puerto Rico, que es donde de la cuenta. Pero eso que dijiste de artesanía es bien interesante. Nosotros trabajamos directamente con el Instituto de Cultura de Puerto Rico y estamos ayudando a los artesanos a que suban sus productos al internet. ¿Por qué? Porque vemos que los puertorriqueños, nuestros hermanos en los estados, están buscando artesanía, libros, que sí, t-shirts con diseños de Puerto Rico. Y lo que nosotros construimos en brandsofpuertorico.com es un sitio donde todo el mundo que le gusta Puerto Rico, que tiene familia puertorriqueña o que nació en Puerto Rico y se pueda sentir como en casa y puedas comprar tu pan sobao, pero también una cadena con la isla de Puerto Rico,
¿sí?
Una artesanía y lo importante es eso, hacer como la sala de la casa de abuela, que todo el mundo iba y jangueaba ahí, pues eso es lo que estamos haciendo.
Y otra pregunta, Alan, ¿es posible entonces, o cómo, how do these brands in Puerto Rico, how do they reach out to you? ¿Cómo te podemos encontrar para alguna colaboración?
Claro, nos pueden buscar por todas las redes sociales, Brands of Puerto Rico. Queríamos un nombre que fuera bien fácil para que todo el mundo lo entendiera. Nos puede escribir social media al email info@brandsofpuertorico.com. Y también no tanto la marca en Puerto Rico, nosotros le vendemos también wholesale a tiendas en comunidades puertorriqueñas que quieren vender sus productos. Entonces, si alguien que está escuchando esto ahora tiene un negocio, tiene una bodega o un mini supermercado, nosotros podemos llevarle nuestro catálogo para que ellos ofrezcan muchos productos y de marcas que de verdad son 100% de aquí y son working families, que yo creo que eso es bien importante, no tan solo lo que hacemos de ship it como si fuera un Amazon de productos de Puerto Rico, pero también estamos ayudando a business owners en los estados a tener productos locales.
And we have Joel Berrocal from the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce with us again. Joel, let's ask a question. We're doing the best we can. It happens with the tech sometimes, brother, but why don't we squeeze it in here? Tell us, if someone's watching this, they could be a hairstylist in Raleigh, North Carolina, or have a small business in Tampa, but they're not connected to the National Puerto Rican Chamber. Say, hey, I want to be part of this collaboration that you have here with Brands of Puerto Rico and the Puerto Rican diaspora supporting each other. So how do Puerto Rican businesses get involved with the National Puerto Rican Chamber, and what are the benefits of being part of the chamber?
So I think I'm good now, so I'm gonna try to be quick.
Yeah, you're good. Do your thing.
So our chamber is kind of unique compared to other ones, where we have a presence in both the States and in PR, and we kind of have the ability to connect those two unique, distinct ecosystems. So if anybody is looking, they could always reach out to me via our social media or our website, nprchamber.org. And kind of how we deal with businesses, especially with our main focus has been the businesses on the island, because we're able to connect them with our vast network throughout the United States, because we've recently became members of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which is the largest Hispanic chamber in the United States. And we've kind of become their arm in Puerto Rico, their presence in Puerto Rico. So through them, we're able to give access to businesses in Puerto Rico, access to 200 chambers throughout the United States and over 4.7 million businesses. So that's access to business and other chambers that they otherwise might not have access to. So that's kind of something there. But basically how we work with the business, we kind of take it on a case-by-case basis, where someone like Alan and his business tells me specifically what they're looking for as they're expanding to the United States, and we help them accordingly. Luckily, we have the resources and capabilities to help in almost any way. But no business is too small or too big for our chamber and what we're trying to accomplish. We have people and the resources to help anything and anything you're trying to accomplish in growing your business. So, like I said, you can go to our website. If you're a small business, we kind of overhauled our small business membership. So we have a great introductory rate. It's completely tax deductible because of the structure of our entities. So check out our website, check us out on social media, and I'd be more than happy to provide any more information if anybody's interested.
I'm going to ask Alan, Joel, and Sulaih to just give me a moment because I want to provide people before we wrap up the show, because on the COVID piece, there's a study that just came out today. I thought it was very important to share with people. We're going to hear from Sulaih and the rest of the crew in a moment. You're watching the Founding Translation of Bomba Live Simulcast. People really engage or really appreciate the engagement. A lot of people have a lot of strong opinions about the Goya boycott. Keep it coming. We're certainly with that here. You know, nobody, as Joel said earlier, nobody's owed our money. And, you know, there's plenty of ways we can have our voice heard economically, socially, politically. And by the way, support Puerto Rican businesses and other small business owners, whether they're on the island or throughout the diaspora. But I wanted to share some information. As many of you know, I'm the National Political Director for Unidos US, the nation's largest Hispanic civil rights organization. And we came out with some information today, basically talking about the impact, the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the Latino community. And I just wanted to share this, is that, you know, there's many statistics that one of which is so stark, which is you're 3 times more likely if you're Latino to know someone that's been impacted health-wise by COVID-19 than the general population. And I just want to give a stat around one of the reasons that's the case is that we're the frontline workers of this country. And I just wanted to put this statistic up here. A fifth of utility and transportation workers, 15% of frontline workers, 15% of pharmacy and drugstore workers, the people that are on the front lines, of servicing us throughout this entire pandemic is the Latino community. Only 15% of Latinos had the privilege of being able to work from home. So that means either we were getting laid off disproportionately, which we have been, and we still are, or we've been forced to work and have made some very difficult decisions around, do I go to work to help my family, or do I stay home to protect my family? And that's one of the things, as this discussion around reopening the economy and reopening our schools continues, I want people to understand that, you know, there's people making decisions about putting us in the front lines because they don't have to be on the front lines. The Republican National Convention is supposedly still going to happen in person in Jacksonville, Florida in a few weeks. And many of the most prominent national Republicans said, you know what, I'll do my address on video. So they're dictating if you can go back to school or you can go back to work or your kids can be on the front lines. But they're not doing it for themselves. So I just wanted to make sure that people understand that the COVID-19 crisis is not going away. Fam, we're smart people. If you don't got a cure, we got to protect ourselves. And, you know, if and when a vaccine takes place and how affordable and accessible it is to the Latino community is another conversation. We'll have that many times. But the bottom line is don't let rhetoric, don't let political nonsense impact your brain and your thinking, because people are making decisions to put you and your family on the front lines, not to put themselves on the front lines. Let's get back to the discussion as we wrap up this episode of the Bomba Live Founding Translation Simulcast with Sulaih Picorelli, Alan Taveras, and Joel Berrocal. Before we get to your final thoughts, really quickly, I want to get your thoughts about Walter Mercado. You know, this has been a phenomenon. We had a wonderful conversation with Zulima, Mayra, and Marangeli about the impact of that documentary. So Sulaih, I'm sure you saw it, but I know that this conversation around Walter is very fitting and puts a smile on people's faces in the middle of a pandemic.
He really does. He really did. And I'm not done with the documentary. I haven't had a lot of time lately to sit down and watch, an hour and a half long. I don't know why. Maybe the dog. But yes, Walter was one of those people that you just heard on the TV, en la sala de tu casa, o cuando ibas a visitar a la tía o a la abuela. And his voice was so soothing. Y yo creo que eso era como que lo que te atraía. It was a soothing presence. He wasn't, he was always so positive and so loving. So I can't wait to finish it.
De perspectiva de alguien que vive en Puerto Rico, Alan, sus reflexiones sobre the documentary de Walter Mercado and his global influence.
And I knew Walter was big, but after seeing that documentary, wow,
Yeah.
he's
Tremendo, brother.
huge, like in Brazil and
El
in
mundo
Europe.
entero, hermano,
Yeah.
Asia, todo.
But something really, really, really important. If you saw it, you guys need to read the contract. Never sign something without reading it.
Don't give up that publishing. You're right about that, Alan. You're right about that. You know, obviously, you know, Walter teaches us that our influence goes. We don't understand how much of an influence we have amongst our family, our friends, and then of course this platform. I'm amazed by the emails and the social media I get talking about. Forget me, talking about all of you guys. Saying, where do you know these people? I want to connect with Yvette. I want to connect with Sulaih. I want to connect with, I want this person back on the show. This person was really inspiring to me. So we want to continue to have this platform to not only share this talent that we have in our community, but really have these conversations entre nosotros. Like, how do we collaborate in a way that we can take this to the next level to build bigger platforms? Because look, Chef Ivoni, I want to have him on the show, Alan, because he was featured earlier on in the major Bomba Live show through our film group. And, you know, there's so many of these interconnections. A lot of us kind of know each other in the leadership space, and there's just many more ways you can collaborate. As we wrap up this edition of the show, Joel, just your final thoughts from the perspective of the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce on this conversation. Post Goya, how do we take this opportunity to support our small businesses and build the economy of the Puerto Rican diaspora in the island of Puerto Rico?
Well, first thing, I got to say something about Walter Mercado.
Okay.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was OJ being chased, whatever. When Walter came on, that was the time you had to be quiet. It's time to listen. So that was just a good memory. I didn't get a chance to watch the documentary yet, but from what I've heard about it, it just gives you a new perspective of the guy.
Really
He's a larger-than-life personality, so I'm looking forward to checking it out. But overall, I think something that we're really trying to do is just build awareness to these brands. I mean, people don't understand what's out there, you know. Kind of what we had talked about is with the whole Goya thing is that people thought it was the only option, and that's why they had that loyalty to it, because it's all they know. So here at the Chamber, I know Alan at Brands, and me and him have a lot of stuff, you know, that moving forward that we plan to do to build awareness to the alternatives that are out there. So just be open to trying something different. Support local business, and you know, do a little research. You know, see what's out there, you know, so that's most I can say. And again, just to follow us, go on NPR Chamber, social media, you know, Facebook, our website, check us out.
Alan, your final comments, y si quieres explicar algunos comentarios en español para la gente que está escuchando de Puerto Rico y está escuchando en español.
Claro, nos vamos en español. Creo que es bien importante que entendamos que somos uno. No importa si tú estás en los estados o en qué estado estés, o si estés en Puerto Rico, somos uno y tenemos que cuidarnos como familia, porque si algo nos ha enseñado los últimos años, específicamente desde María para acá, es que no tenemos a nadie si no somos nosotros. Cuando dio María, quien sacó la cara por Puerto Rico fueron los boricuas que están en los estados y los tenemos. Entonces vamos a empezar a entender el poder que tenemos en las cosas que compramos. Si vamos a comprar un adobo, quizá un adobo de $5 cambia la vida que tú lo compras a una pequeña familia de Guayama o de un pueblo en Puerto Rico. Seamos más inteligentes y más conscientes, esa es la palabra, conscientes, que las decisiones que tomamos de comprar son decisiones que van a afectar vidas de gente en Puerto Rico que no se quiere ir, que está metiendo mano y que está tratando de sacar proyectos hacia adelante. Gente como Joel, gracias porque te importe Puerto Rico y ustedes. Esta es la segunda vez que estoy en el show. Ya yo me siento que soy parte de esto. Ya
seguro, parte de la familia, seguro.
No, pero de verdad, gracias por darnos una voz. Mucho de lo que se escucha de Puerto Rico afuera, ay bendito, Puerto Rico está chavado, Puerto Rico es un huracán, pero gracias a programas como los de ustedes, pues la gente se entera que hay gente que está aquí, que tiene orgullo, que está haciendo sus compañías y que quiere echar para adelante. Así que gracias y vamos, hay que seguir trabajando unidos y seguir elevando esto, que esta plataforma sea más grande.
Well, the 3 words when we developed the mission statement of Bomba Live, Virtual Puerto Rico Celebration, was talent, character, and perseverance. And so that is what this is about, because You know, we have talent in many areas. As you saw here today, we had music. We have business owners. In the case of Sulaih, a little of everything, you know, broadcaster, singer, commentator on some of these community issues. And that is the Puerto Ricans that I grew up with. And that is the Puerto Rican community that I am here to highlight and elevate, because that's what our community is really about, not the stereotypes and not what others learn about us. You know, one of the things, and then I'll ask Sulaih for her final comments and we'll take it out, is that, you know, non-Puerto Ricans that grew up in the West Coast, I'm talking about Latinos, they grew up in, you know, Texas, California, they might have grown up one or two Puerto Ricans, but what they know about Puerto Ricans is what they see on television. Let's keep it real. You know, they see celebrities and they see, you know, they see what they see. And, you know, like you said, Puerto Rico está chaval, you know, and one of the things that they like to watch the show is that they get to learn the totality that we are very diverse people. And they say, wow, we didn't realize Puerto Ricans had so much depth and so much richness and history in the States and all these things on the island we just weren't aware of. So that is a lot of non-Puerto Ricans enjoy learning about our community as much as we do about learning our own community. So Alan Taveras from Brands of Puerto Rico, we're going to keep working with you, support you 100%. Yeah. Joel, you know, you're my little brother, so you know, I don't got a choice. I got to help you, whatever. With the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, all jokes aside, a great leader in his own right and a great friend. Sulaih, this was really encompassed what you like about the show, because we got to talk about some serious issues entre nosotros, and we also got to sing and have some fun with La Parcha. They were a lot of fun.
And I don't know if you noticed in the comments, but even my mother threw some shade in there. I'm going to post that up there para que vean. So, en español, mami.
I didn't know that was your mother. Dios la bendiga. Noemi. No, she's always welcome. So, Sulaih, thank you so much. You know, we're going to take it out how we started. Date un beso. We're going to play the video again from La Parcha. Again, thank you so much. Mil gracias, familia, for watching and enjoying the Found in Translation Bomba Live Simulcast. Support your Puerto Rican business owners on La Isla. My box is coming. So what I did was, Alan, is because I didn't know the difference. I bought every brand, one of every brand. My wife's going to test all of them, and then we'll keep ordering the one she likes the most. So my box on the show next week, I'll show my car how to prove to you that I made my order. We're going to keep supporting you and Joel 1,000%. Enjoy the Date un Beso, el video nuevo de La Parcha, and have a wonderful week.
Quiero que tú te enteres de que te extraño desde el momento en que me despido frente a tu puerta. Quisiera ser yo el que todos los días del año, con un cafecito en mano, a ti te despierta. Cantarte mis canciones al oído y celebrar que estás aquí conmigo, haciéndote el amor hasta que me pierda en tu corazón. Yo quiero darte un beso, amor de mis amores, un beso de agua fresca para que bailen todas tus flores. Yo quiero darte un beso cuando caiga la noche y hasta el amanecer quiero pintar mi cuerpo con tus colores.
Quiero besarte como si fuera la última vez, como si luego de esta noche no hubiera un después, que mis manos se dediquen a explorar tu piel, que tu sonrisa se combine con tu desnudez. Te quedes conmigo esta mañana y cuando entre el sol por la ventana nos desayunamos en la cama.
Yo quiero darte un beso, amor de mis amores, un beso de agua fresca para que bailen todas tus flores. Yo quiero darte un beso cuando caiga la noche y hasta el amanecer quiero pintar mi cuerpo con tus colores. Yo quiero darte todo, porque sin ti no hay nada. Quiero despedirme nunca más de ti, quiero vivir contigo, quiero ser feliz. Quiero darte todo,
desde Puerto Rico para el universo. Nosotros somos La Parcha.